Thank you for watching the Whittemore Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your host Edward McQueen and April Garner.
Here it is, July 6th, 2020. Good evening. You're looking at the live streaming of the Whittemore Community Magazine. I'm your host, Ed McQueen, and of course, our co-host, Sister April Garner.
Had to put my eyes on. How you doing today, Brother Edward? Yes. I have to have my eyes nowadays.
We're very thankful and we welcome our visitors, our new viewers and our steady viewers. We certainly appreciate you tuning in today. It's every time we have something that we get the feedback back and the people want to ask questions, but they always send us questions after the show and all that kind of stuff. But that's good because we know that you're listening. Mm-hmm. So we're just like today. It's going to be lively. We're going to. For example, our topics for the live for the past few weeks have been the members of the law enforcement and youth organizers and individual discussions across various social media platforms. But what we're going to do today is going to show some solutions that we think are going to be able to unify and heal our communities. And you'll see with our special guest, we'll flank her up in a few minutes. But guess what? How do we start off, April?
We always start off by giving shout outs to our listeners, our jurisdictions, our precincts, our areas, neighborhoods, communities, everybody who's watching.
Absolutely, man. I mean, that's so important. We hold our dear viewers very important, and we're so glad that you're listening in, and especially everybody over there. We send out our condolences, right, and our prayers, our well wishes to all of our sick and shut in. And again, we usually try to start alphabetically, but we know that first alphabet, which is ANA or either Allentown, one of the two. Urgent, a Choppy. Still, we're getting there. The ABCD.
Carver's Bay.
Carver's Bay.
Carver's Bay.
Yeah, you said Carver's Bay. All right.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Charleston.
Oh, okay. Because you better not mess up Carver's Bay. You might get a call.
Might get a call.
You might get a call.
Charleston.
Yep, Charleston.
Annie Village, Jackson Village, Georgetown, Hemingway. We'll go out of state after a while since we're global.
That's right.
We'll go out of state after a while. We just want to do the immediate for the moment here. Georgetown, you said Choppy, or I said Choppy, right? Plantersville.
Right, Plantersville.
Myrtle Beach, South Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach, Paul's Island, Merle's Inlet. Okay.
North Santee community just chimed in. Thank you, Verdell Beckman. Yes, North Santee.
They chimed in. All right, the Beckmans.
Yes.
All right, the Beckmans. We're gonna have to do some more stuff on North Santee in that area. We're going to do some exploring. Yeah, some research and stuff like that. We got a lot of stuff ahead of that because that's a very historical area.
Yes.
Okay. The Santee area, North Santee. But continuing on, we got Marion, Loris, Green Sea, all of our beautiful people over there who been viewing us almost regularly. St. Paul, Homewood, Highway 65, 701.
Yeah. Hi from Charlotte, North Carolina, Yvette Pope. That's one of my sisters from college. Thank you for tuning in today.
All right.
Yes. Charlotte, North Carolina in the house.
Oh, wow. North Carolina. We're going up the to the mid-Atlantic area.
Yeah.
And North Carolina may be our first stop because that borders South Carolina. But continue on talking. We got our brothers over there in Florence, South Carolina. Jacksonville. Okay.
Did you hit Charleston? Did you say anything about Charleston?
Yeah, I said Charleston, especially Charleston. And North Charleston.
Okay. All right.
Goose Creek, the Goose. Goose Creek.
Ladson.
Yeah, Ladson. Yeah, right, Ladson.
Did we say? Well, let's come on back up the coastline. Did we say Wampy and Poplar? We'll get in trouble if we don't mention Wampy and Poplar.
Get in trouble.
Longs.
That's the Chesterfield area over there.
Yes.
Yeah. Wampy.
North Green Sea.
Long, South Carolina.
Little River.
Big River.
There you go. You got the cue. Whiteville, Tabor City, you name it. And we can't forget the capital of Conway.
No, we can't keep it capital. Oh, that's right. That's right. That is the place. Okay.
Yes.
Do we want to? We don't want to play. Do we want to give any money away? We don't want to give any money away. People naming the capital of Conway, do we?
Great. Shit. Let's do that next time.
Do that next time.
Yeah, we do that. We can do it this time if you want to. Now, yeah. If you know the capital of Conway, post it first. Person to post the capital of Conway, Brother Elwood has something for you.
Yeah, bill us.
Notice I said Brother Elwood. Brother Elwood.
Yeah, I got a Chris.
Got something for you.
Chris.
Yes.
According to Sister April, a crisp $5 bill.
I'm going to tell our special guest she can't be a part of this because she's our special. Oh, we got a winner. She's our special guest, so she can't be a part of this. But we do have a winner. Amanda Butler knows the capital of Conway is Sugar Hill. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you, Amanda Butler.
All right, Sister Amanda, we're going to send you a check. You going to
send her a check for $5. Are you seriously going to send her a check for $5? You better add about 20 more to that and make it right. He'll send you a little something, Amanda. A little something. Okay.
Okay. I can talk to Ms. Welch. I can always give it to Ms. Welch. So I hope Ms. Welch is watching, by the way. You got to get her on board. She's part of this history around here too.
Yes.
But anyway, if we didn't name your jurisdiction, please just give us a call or chime in and just let us know, okay? But we've got some information for you today. And guess what? We have a moment in what?
Black history.
God,
no, that's you want me to say that again?
Yep.
Black history. Black history.
We got that schedule for you.
Yes, we do.
And boy, she's got some history here too. So we are we're so happy to have as our guest today, as the promotion stated. She will be down in Black history. She's already has a little bit of history. She's one of the foremost educators in Horry County, crossing all racial lines. Okay. And we're so happy to have discussions on as a follow-up to our last 3 or 4 guests we had in the last 3 or 4 weeks on unifying and healing our community. And there's none other to talk about that than Miss Marjorie McIver.
Well, hello.
How are you?
Oh, I'm fine.
Mother McIver, how are you?
The icon. That looks like a gesture that you give to icons and aged folks.
Well, you know what you're getting in. Hey. How are you today?
I'm just wonderful, trying to stay busy.
Yeah, go ahead and make our day, okay?
It's awesome to have you here today.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't know it, first of all, Miss McIver is extremely busy. Okay. It's kind of hard to pinpoint her because she's always doing something. And when she agreed to do this and come help us pull together this last part for the series, I actually had my fingers crossed because I was like, she might say, now, April, you'll have to find someone else. I can help you. I can give you some guidelines. That's her thing, y'all. She's the guide. But it is absolutely amazing to have her here. And she and Brother Edward, I already know what the energy is going to be like. So I'm going to do a lot of watching. I will talk, Miss McIver. I'm not going, I'm not going to not be a part of the conversation, but it's going to be so interesting to see you and Brother Edward exchange this dialogue and
Well,
hopefully.
I'm going to be real kind and professional like today.
Wow.
Is that what we're getting today? Kind and professional? Look, okay, all right. If you must.
If he behaves, I'll be all right.
Okay.
All right. We're going to be there.
Right. Well, you got to worry, Brother Edward, if you behave.
So, Ms. McIver, we really want to do like a follow-up, and you've been really interacting on our past 3 or 4 weeks of our having our guests regarding law enforcement and the community, and we thought it would be good for you to chime, to chime in live, and have some discussions on some suggested moves towards law enforcement and the community itself. And believe me, I'm sure everybody's in accord with that. We couldn't have been a better person to come to do a follow up on that. No. Do a follow up on that. Not because we like you.
Okay.
I'm gonna
make sure that's part of it.
There you go.
Okay. All right. So and we have I guess we have a number of questions for which that we can move forward on, and one of the things that came up was that what have we learned from all the discussions in the past 3 or 4 shows
since May 25th, and since May 25th,
yeah, since the George Floyd incident, really. What do you think about what have we learned? What how can we move forward from that?
Well, one of the things I'd like to do is to thank you all for at least giving me the opportunity to share just one voice from this community, the perspective of one voice from this community. And as all of you know, I've served this community for the past 50 years in one capacity or another. And, working with our students and our parents and teachers in the schools and in communities across this county. I think I've worked in every attendance area in the county, in the school system. And in doing so, we're trying to effect the kind of changes in education that we deemed it was necessary for students. I had an opportunity to witness all 3 of the parts that you had on law enforcement. And I did glean some things from each one of them. When we had Chief Hill and Chief Long, they gave us a good perspective on how law enforcement actually works. The ins and outs of you on a daily basis. And they gave us a sense of some of the activities that they were doing in the community, especially with our young people, before COVID came about. And there was a sense there that we are not experiencing the kinds of problems and issues and concerns that other, areas of our state and of the country facing. So when I heard that, the only thing that came to my mind at that time was, are we going to wait for something to happen? So that was my take on that. And the next was with Chief Washington from Darlington. And he talked about transforming his department. He prefers to use that term in lieu of reforming. And I get that as well. And whatever name we want to call it, just as long as the changes that we want to see effect, and it doesn't matter the term in a sense, in this instance. And I want to commend Chief Washington on the successful march protest that they had in Darlington. He marched with the protesters, with the marchers, and it was a very, very organized and peaceful march. So that's one instance where we see that our law enforcement could, perhaps take part in letting the community know, I'm with you, I support the efforts as long as they're peaceful and things of that nature. So I commend Chief Washington for that. And then comes Chief Waits from Georgetown. He added a very different perspective on the things that he had to face. One of the questions that I asked was, if you had to change or if you had to implement anything in your department that would address some of the community issues and concerns, what would that be? And of course, he just thought 1 second, and that's the fact that the community does not appear to trust law enforcement. If he had to do something, he would try to figure out a way to polarize, to bring his community together, to form partnerships where these concerns and issues can be addressed and there's a mutual respect, between law enforcement and the people. And I thought that was so insightful. It was just so forth telling that when law enforcement comes to a community and brings the issues as they truly are, and there's no fear or no reprehension about bringing forth the truth, I think that would perhaps be one of the ways that that community could heal and come together. So I'm hopeful, and if there's anything that the neighboring community like Conway can do, help him in whatever he is trying to do and implement in his department, I think we would be remiss if we did not do that. So that's my take on the 3 parts.
Mm-hmm.
I was really, I guess I speak for April also. I was really impressed with all of our guests that we had with law enforcement, and they all shared some of the same things, and they said a lot that I hopefully our viewers could digest and act upon, and they just seem like they really want to help the community,
Yeah.
So I can appreciate that.
And one of the things, if I might say, as we are going through this pandemic, I have lots of opportunity to reflect upon things that are going on all across the country. And I'm reminded of the thing that came forth from the George Floyd situation. And all it took was one knee on a neck that created a polarization of this whole entire country. And when I think about that, I also reflect on what happened during the Emanuel 9 tragedy. We all, were a part of that, and especially this community. Again, I can't thank you all enough for the kind of support that you showed Charleston, you showed my family. And when we brought the documentary here, the outpour of support for that. We thought we were starting off with 2 or 3 nights to do the one showing. But on each of those nights, they had as many as 8 to 10 showings in the different theaters that they had at the Cinemark and Conway, the entire Horry County community out and showed the support for that. So I can't thank you enough for that. On that same note, I had an opportunity to talk at length with George Floyd's baby sister. And I got to learn a little bit about her. and was able to come up with a request that she had of me. And as April said, I'm always doing something or trying to do something. And she wanted some buttons. So my creative juices started flowing, and I was able to produce some buttons for her. I just wish I had the opportunity to show these. And I'm not sure, what that would look like, but I was able to do that. And anytime I hear the term police mentioned, it just draws me back to that moment in time, either with Emanuel 9 and now George Floyd.
Well, you did give us a preview, even though I don't think you sent them through the system to April and everybody, to get to show them in its entirety.
Right.
Like we would like to show them, but you can hold it up and show what the button looks like as much as possible. Because you showed it earlier. You showed it to us earlier. The button was George Floyd. You don't want to show it?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I can. This is technology. You understand that, right?
Yeah, just
you asked for that, Brother Edward. You asked for that.
All right. What I might risk going out and can't get back in. So do you want me to try it?
No, don't do that.
You put it in front of the camera. What you did earlier.
Oh, I thought okay, there you are.
Okay, there it is. There
All
you
right,
go.
that's one of them, and that one says justice for George.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Edward, see, I learned something today.
I'm always learning from you.
And this other one says, I can't.
That's really clear.
And it's George Floyd.
Yeah.
This is the one that she sent me from the obituary. And then she has 2 young boys.
Right. Yeah.
And she wanted, I told him I would just do something special surprise or something.
Right.
So the 2 sons are on the sides with Uncle George.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we saw them very clearly.
Okay.
Very clearly.
Miss McIver, those buttons are a wonderful memorialization of George Floyd. And when you said that you had spoken with his sister,
right?
My first thought was all about the emotion that I'm sure was a part of that call, mainly because, as you said, whenever these kinds of issues surface and they involve police brutality issues or any type of policing issue or just, any type of, I guess, terroristic type issue, you can't help but relive it. And now that family is living it. And so, and that is the common ground between you and that family, your family and that family. What did she say? What she really wants to see happen as a result of the movements and all of the
she echoed the sentiments that were shared by her family members, either during the time of the news conferences or during the memorializing service. They just wanted justice. Want justice.
It's justice.
And that's why their, I guess, logo with justice for George.
And that's understandable. One of the things that Chief Waits talked about when he mentioned the solutions was attached to policies and procedures and the need for improvement. But inside of that, he said something that I thought was really profound. He said, the mitigation or evaluation of hate. How do we do that? How do you, even though all of, all of the candidates go through assessments, the physical assessments, psychological assessments or whatever, how do you really get down to the evaluation of hate? Because that is something that, someone can easily suppress to get where they want to go.
Exactly.
But it doesn't take long for it to rear its ugly head once they meet what they hate head on, which is we can equate that to what happened with the George Floyd situation and what appeared to be going on there. So when you think about that particular statement by Chief Waits and the impact of that statement, what does it make you think of, even in terms of what you experienced as you were going through, and your family was going through everything with Dylann Roof, and your observations of hate, or at least the semblances that appear to be apparent in that particular person?
Well, when I watched that horrific act with the knee on the neck, and as I continue to look at this video, I'm looking into the eyes of someone who just seemed to have had a blank stare. I mean, no emotions, nothing. And I reflected on the time in the courtroom, the 5 weeks of a trial in Charleston dealing with the Emanuel 9 massacre, is what I would call it. And watching Dylann Roof in the courtroom every day. There was one day that I chose to go into the main courtroom where he was. And I could not see anything but the back of him. None of us could see anything but the back. So when my brother-in-law asked me to go again, I declined. I wanted to stay in the room, in the courtroom. There was another courtroom that we could watch the monitors and see everything that was going on. I chose to do that. And it was that same blank stare. I mean, no emotion. It was like a nothingness, that I witnessed. And I kept thinking about the night that I found out what was going on. I had just left Charleston, as I shared with many listeners. I had gone to Charleston to visit the sick from Conway, and got back to Conway about little after 9 o'clock that night. And as soon as I got to the bedroom, my telephone rang, and it was my baby sister who said, "You got to come back." I said, "Got to come back for what?" She said, "There's been a shooting at the church, and our sister was there, and we don't know anything because they won't allow anybody to go near, in, or whatever." Everybody was at a holding place further down the street. So I prepared to go back, and I stayed there for 2 weeks until the funeral services had culminated, and then the final unity prayer night was that Wednesday, 2 weeks after. But going back to that question, even thinking about the subtle racism that's here, you're not going to see it. Sometimes it manifests itself in from conflicts that occur between and among people. Sometimes through those interactions, somebody will inadvertently blurt out something, maybe. And until those things occur, then you may not know. And that's why I would encourage law enforcement to be proactive and do the necessary training. And if there's an officer that presents himself in such a manner, that it has to be dealt with, and it needs to be dealt with expediently. Mm-hmm. I don't think you need to wait.
Mm-hmm. Especially now. Now that we have seen, and we've seen and heard of cases time and time again, but for whatever reason, this particular case has ignited something different in people. It's created a shift that I don't want to say is unexplainable, but even people like yourself who've been in the height of civil rights movements have said it's different this time. It feels different this time. And so
and let me share. I can share with you in the 60s when we were protesting, those were very well organized protests. They had many leaders. We had youth leaders. We had attorneys who worked on our behalf. There were so many different entities that were a part of that movement. Nobody looked around to see who the leader was. Everybody became a leader in that everyone had a part to do, a responsibility to do what was necessary to make sure that the community was safe, it was thriving, it was um, um, being created, I mean, not created, but treated equally and fairly. I was one of 4 student leaders. And if you want to use a hierarchy in that time, we had several ministers who led the charge. Each had their major responsibilities. There was one that worked with the attorneys from Columbia who came down to, to deal with the court issues. There was the piece with the law enforcement, and the 4 leaders had responsibility of being the forerunner with every march and every rally that we had. The 4 of us were sent to restaurants to desegregate restaurants that would not allow us to come through the front door. We had to go through the back. But the 4 of us went through the front. And of course, they closed the restaurant down. There was one gentleman, he was an Asian person, and it's strange, he had some children that went to Immaculate Conception, ICS. It was the Black Catholic school. And the thing that he said to us, he said, I promise you, I can't be the first, but I will not be the last. That always resonated with me, in that nobody wanted to take the forefront in opening up their doors, their front doors. He didn't want to do that. But once somebody else started, he said he would. And I found that a right strange dynamics there with his children going to the Black Catholic school. But then he had to do that. When we were arrested, the 4 student leaders we were, I guess, fingerprinted and everything else, but we didn't have to stay in jail. We were bailed out every time, except the one where a riot took place, where the dogs were brought out. And at that point in time, I stayed in jail 4 days and 4 nights. That was a different kind of experience. And it said to me, Margie, you don't want to ever do anything that would cause you to be arrested or to be in jail for any period of time. So that was a good learning experience for me. But when it came down to task for the organization, which we were back and supported by the NAACP at that time. Of course, since that time, we've got other organizations that have come into existence that do the same kind of things, but very well organized. For the most part, every march except that one that I could think of, and another one that one of my sisters was in, they all were peaceful. Now, the only way we were allowed to participate in the marches, we had to go to school every day, because school was closed because there was nobody there. So we really didn't miss out on that. We just had to take our body to the school building, get marked present, and then mom and dad would allow us to come out and participate. Yeah, so in the whole entire summer of 63, just before I went to college, I was either arrested, march, pick, just name it. Just name it.
Wow. Very, very. I can get emotional over that just by listening to your narrative on that, and from a historical perspective. Anyway, before we take a break, when we come back, we want to start off with your take on where do we go from here, and who needs to take the charge. Okay.
Interesting.
So we're going to take a break now, but after the break, the break, I told you what we had in store for y'all. Black History Moment.
You all are going to enjoy it. It's very appropriate based upon what she just said.
Right. And it couldn't have picked a better time right after you got through talking about that, Ms. McIver.
Absolutely.
And none other than Sister Joella.
She got you all the way together real quick. Real quick.
Okay, we'll take a break now, but she will lead off after the commercial. Okay, we'll be right back.
For all of your insurance needs, home, auto, and life, see how it feels to be on a #1 team with Tony McAfee of State Farm Insurance. Call Tony at 843-903-7800 or visit him at 3888 Renee Drive in Myrtle Beach. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Looking to start a new career? Train to work in Myrtle Beach. Class is starting soon. Free to eligible participants. Short-term, 3 weeks or less in hospitality, culinary, electrical, plumbing, and more at Horry Georgetown Technical College. There's more. Continuing education at 843-477-2020. Horry Georgetown Technical College, where there's more. Enjoy soul food the way your mama made it. You'll be surrounded by some of the best food in Horry County and affordable prices. Blue plate specials, senior plates, and more. Daily specials at Big Mike's Soul Food. Big Mike's Soul Food is located at 504 16th Avenue in Myrtle Beach. You can call your order in at 843-712-2048 or visit BigMikeSoulFood.net to find out about the latest specials. Big Mike's Soul Food. Soul food, the way your mama made it. Treating conditions from A to Z. Schedule an appointment today. Ask about acceptable insurance coverage at Waccamaw Primary Care, 660 Singleton Ridge Road, Conway, South Carolina. Dr. Winston D. McIver Jr., a trusted and reputable source in Horry County and beyond, has all you need for family practice and sports medicine. Call 843-234-4362 to schedule your appointment today. Waccamaw Primary Care, 660 Singleton Ridge Road, Suite A, Conway, South Carolina, 843-234-4362. And we are back. We have another icon from Horry County here with us today. It is such a pleasure and honor to have you with us, Sister Joella McQueen. How are you doing?
Oh, thank God for another day and just another time with you and Brother Edward and your special guest today. I'm just honored to be in the room with all of you and just listening and learning. And as we say, education is continuing. You never get tired of learning. And that is why it is just a blessing to be here today. And I just want to thank all of our viewers who come on every week to drink in the knowledge that you and Brother Edward, as well as your show, Sister April, with Dr. McIver, in terms of helping the community to learn more and talk about solutions, because just listening to Sister Margie a few minutes ago, and I know it's just still so fresh in terms of what took place. Was it 5 years ago or 4 years ago? I think it was in 2015. And just the idea of knowing what took place with a loved one And now reaching out, she's not just sitting there, but reaching out to others who have experienced that same pain, because it's something to lose someone, because of natural causes, but to lose someone that's young and have dreams and visions pertaining, to just giving back, especially her sister and the other 8 Emmanuel victims. And I just want to let her know that we will always express our condolences to her, and to let her know that we're still on the battlefield, because we have something for our children to learn from, and to understand that, yes, it happened, but we have to keep marching on. We have to pass the baton to them so that they know that the fight is not over. So I'm just happy to be here, and I'm not going to hold up because I want to continue hearing her. And thank you.
You take as much time as you need.
Well,
because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here, actually.
I don't think Brother Edward wants me to take too much time. But here I stand. And I'm just so, so so full of feeling in terms of what we want our children to learn. And not only about present history, but about past history, and just what we have been through and what we're still going through. And I just recently thought about Independence Day. We just celebrated that 2 days ago. And just what does independence mean to each person in this country? We know that we are blessed to be here. We have freedom of speech, which is very important. We have all the other bills, the rights, but we also need to know that we still have to learn about history in general, and especially about our people who made a contribution at the time when they were not welcome to do that. And I'm speaking of a beautiful, beautiful mother, I would call her, Harriet Tubman. Would you please put that up for me, Edward? Yes, Harriet Tubman. As you know, she was a soldier. She was a minister. She was a teacher. And yet she did not have the education that we have today. And somehow, after all that took place with her, she was committed to free her people. And it started out with the Underground Railroad, where she took her family members as well as others to Canada. And we want always to give our children the perspective of just how we got to where we are today. And in looking at all the things that we have and the children have, Harriet had to fight for those things, but she didn't mind doing it. She worked in order to be able to educate. So we're talking about having our children to learn about our history, Black history. And that's why we started the program when we were on the radio. Every day is Black History Day. So I'm advising parents, while we are all sheltered in place during this pandemic, to talk with your children about what took place with Brother George Floyd. Listen to what comes up in a positive way, and also read about our ancestors who never gave up, even to the very end. And when you read this book, you will find out how she was able to do all of these things and yet not be bitter about what took place. Did you know that she did not receive any pension from fighting during the Civil War? Did you know that even after she was able to win her freedom, she moved into parts of New York, And she opened up a home for anyone who wanted to come, who was ill. And that was her legacy to the very end. And that is why we have to continue to support her. Now, it's a controversy over her being placed on the $20 bill. And after a person, in terms of Andrew Jackson. Now, we know the history about Andrew Jackson. If you don't, please go and read it and understand why we should support not just her being on the $20 bill, which really has a significant value, but at the same time, we could talk about her in another light. But read about it and find out why they don't want to put her on there. But at the same time, remember that you have to learn your history in order not to be able to repeat it. The last part in this book, and I want you to go, is called Harriet Tubman. And the last page of it, you will see how even though she was still weak because of all the things that took place, in the final end, she was able to inspire others to fight for freedom and to always help others. And this is a picture of her, Tubman, in 1911, when she was about 89 years old. She died in 1913. So again, in 2022, they will be celebrating her bicentennial, because she will have turned 200 years old. So we never forget, and we're always trying to help our children to understand. May God continue to bless you. And next week, we are going to talk about other important, brave Black patriots. I've contacted Sister Jannar Falk, who is a historian in her own way. And we're going to do the best that we can to let our children know you should be proud of your past. Don't let anyone tell you that you cannot make it in this life. God bless you.
Having problems with your vehicle? For quick, prompt, and courteous service, call Snag and Drag Towing. Gregory Graham will make sure that you're taken care of right away. 843-997-0751. That's Snag and Drag Towing Service at 843-997-0751. If you're looking for flowers for any occasion, the Daisy Fair Flowers is here to help you. They offer an enormous selection of flowers, gift baskets, and live plants for delivery in Conway, South Carolina. Serving Conway since 1980, the Daisy Fair Flowers, 1400 4th Avenue in Conway, or call 843-248-7222. You may also visit the web at thedaisyfairflowers.com. Looking for a full-service funeral home with a broad array of services? Look no further than McKeever Funeral Home at 1408 Race Path Avenue in Conway, South Carolina. They offer a wide variety of services, including traditional funerals, memorial services, and graveside ceremonies. You can reach them anytime, day or night, at 843-248-2706. That's 843-248-2706. McKeever Funeral Home in Conway, South Carolina. George L. Williams Jr. is CEO and licensed funeral director. Support the party that supports you. Vote for your own interests and those of your community. The choice is clear. Horry County Democratic Party. Take a stand. Register to vote 2020. This advertisement is paid for by the Horry County Democratic Party.
Okay, we're back. We're back to with none other than Miss Marjorie McIver.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was an amazing Black History moment.
Sister Joella, it was wonderful, really wonderful. And as you were sharing, it sort of reminded me of what out of this George Floyd situation. I reflected on the removal of these Confederate symbols or statues and all of those things. And it dawned on me. I said, okay, I know about Bloody Sunday, and I know when John Lewis crossed that bridge, and, I knew the extent of what was going on. But it didn't dawn on me that I did not know who Edmund Pettus was. And of course, the teacher in me did the research. And when I found that out, I'm saying those are the things that are not put in the history books.
Right, absolutely.
We know what they wanted us to know, and only that. And I'm reminded now of what's going on, as if we are destroying history per se. And then it makes you wonder whose history. But I really don't want to get on that. Sister Joella took me on that path because I knew and I know what I have to do now to educate myself on a lot of those statues, not knowing what they were involved in.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you see what I'm saying? So I've got to do some more research. And as old as I am, I never stop learning. And that's one thing I need you to know.
That's what life's supposed to be about.
Yeah, I think it behooves all of us to really do research before we knock down a statue.
Oh, yeah.
There's been some unfortunate, at least one incident that was in Branson, Tennessee, I think it was, where they were marching to not knock down a statue, but get a retail store, which was dedicated it was like a museum store that sold only Confederate emblems, museum stuff like that. So they're trying to get these owners to close it down. That's something you got to step back and look at.
Yeah, I think too. Well, don't worry about what I think on that. That's another show. I think in the instance what happened in Charleston, the city took that statue down. The city took the statue of John C. Calhoun down.
Right.
The people did not have to do that. Right. And so there again, if we look at the leadership in these places, and you find it all across the country, the leadership decided this needed to come down. Forcing someone to close a business, I got a little problem with that one. Yeah. And I understand everybody has a right to I guess to open up and to sell if they've got a license to do it. So, but as far as the statutes are concerned, I get it. I get it. I'm not getting the business as much, and I understand that's their preference of what they want to sell, the products that they want to sell. So I take a little different look at that, if you will, and that we don't even need to go there right now.
That sounds like another show. It really does, because there's so much around that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
really. And I just wanted to put that out there to say that as a caveat, and we really should be careful not to embarrass ourselves, and then then come back and say, "Oops, I didn't mean to do that." Because now you have counteracting and people who are taking revenge on the removal of Confederate statues by, for example, up in Rhode Island, I believe, where they defaced Frederick Douglass's monument. Okay, so those are the people who are saying, "Well, you're taking down our monuments and putting them down here. We're going to do something with yours."
We'll take down yours. Yeah.
Right. You can't have a this for that stuff like that.
It does look like a tit for tat. I think that one thing that I guess the movements to remove monuments has also revealed is that sometimes we forget, more often than not, I'll say, we forget what the priority is supposed to be.
Exactly.
And to me, okay, if this is something that, as you all said, and I agree, if we're doing our research and we're also doing the other things that we're supposed to be doing to create these systemic changes. And it boils down to removal of a statue or a symbol or whatever the case is, in light of this particular situation and understand the catalyst for all of this, then okay. But if we're just doing it, or if people are just doing it to appease us, or to, you know, put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, it really is for naught. Because at the end of the day, what did it prove to remove it? And I'm not saying that it's wrong or right to remove the statues. I do believe that when it comes down to being reminded of certain things by symbols and statues and monuments, you know, we have to be mindful of how it does dig into open wounds.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, we can't take our eyes off of what we're supposed to be working on right now.
Exactly.
And I think that I feel that there's something going on with that momentum, because now we have a couple of distractions, one being the removal of these monuments and these symbols. But, you know, just as like Amanda just commented, we must deconstruct the systems that continue to oppress us. And that is really the bigger goal. That's what we're supposed to be working on. Teresa Skinner Jenrette, thank you for watching, for tuning in. She said there's a Confederate memorial downtown on Laurel Street in front of a tree that gets fresh flags every holiday. Do you think this one will be removed from our community here?
Now that they're hearing about it, they better look out now.
Well, I think it goes back to what Ms. McIver was saying. You know, if the people aren't going out there and removing the statues, we don't have the right to just go and remove a statue. It comes from the leadership. Right. It comes from the sense of purpose behind it. And so you have to wonder, well, what was the purpose for moving so quickly to remove the statues, and what pain was it supposed to heal by removing these statues? So, Teresa, I don't know the answer to that. Ms. McIver, I'm sure you have some thoughts.
Is Teresa talking about the Confederate oak?
If you could clarify, Teresa, you're talking about the Confederate oak? Well, we know that's not going anywhere, but she said it's a Confederate memorial downtown in front of a tree that gets fresh flags every holiday.
If we're using the Confederate oak as a part of our advertisement for the gateway into Conway, I might have an issue with that.
Right.
And I don't want to go into any more details right now, because, again, there needs to be some research as to why a business is using that as the gateway, when we know that that's the oak that was the last lynching took place on that oak. And if you all don't know, let's do some more research. So let's just stay away from that right now. But when you're talking about symbols and things that are going on in your own city, we need to do the research. And I'm also reminded, going back to the officer that said we don't have those kinds of problems here, and we don't have it like they have it elsewhere. But are we going to wait until it comes? So I think we need to do our research.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
See what's out there, and whatever we do, we can do it in a peaceful way.
Yeah.
You know,
one of the first steps I think we need to do is check with our local representative, okay, and have discussions with that. Let him or her take it to the council, which I'm sure that's the protocol anyway.
Yeah.
And him or her take it to the council and see if the council thinks that the remain, based on the environment that's happening now, is it appropriate to keep that statue up there? That's a basic question. We'll, if you don't mind, let's just go with our what we said we were going to let the audience know that.
Well, I think I don't want to dismiss the conversation, Brother Edward, because we're talking about healing in the community, and there seems to be a lot around this, not even just the symbols that are rooted in statues and monuments, but even the commercialized symbols. For example, the Aunt Jemima discussions that are going on as to whether or not, it's appropriate to, change that image on something that's been commercialized, and the Uncle Ben's rice and the other things that, as a member of the Black community, yes, we look at those things on shelves in grocery stores and we know what those symbols are rooted in. However, is now the time to fight that fight? That's kind of the thing that is a question in my mind. And I feel that there's a time and a place for everything. And part of what I find myself doing, even on social media, when you're faced with someone who just does not appear to have any empathy and they don't want to understand or at least even just remotely understand why we feel the way we feel, that's the part that I think leads to the frustration. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's hard for our community to heal. If we're trying to explain how we feel and all you hear is, womp, 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 when we're talking to you, then that person who we feel should listen is not trying to be a part of the solution. They're just rooted, they're holding on to what their belief is and what their value is on something. And I think that's why we have so much strife and tension throughout communities, is because we're not willing to really listen. Again, another point Chief Waits made. He was like, we've got to learn to really listen to people. And I think that's why so much is happening around us that just, is overwhelming, because it's like, if we're telling you that we hurt and that this thing hurts us and you still don't want to either have a reasonable conversation about it or help us to decide whether or not it's appropriate to have that particular thing in place, you're just going to stand strong on it's a part of history and we should have it, then that tells you that, no, you're not willing to really help the country heal and move forward and have more symbols of unification versus divisiveness. And so, we try to have these, like Amanda says, small fires. When we see these small fires happening, things should be addressed. However, is that the priority right now? Is that really what we need to do now?
We can't, and nor should we dismiss it. I agree with that. Yeah. When you think about the subtleness in that commercial, that caused me to do some research. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So we all need to be very vigilant and aware of what's going on in our surrounding. And even if there's the perception that we have of something, the perception might not be real, but we need to explore it and to find out what's behind it. So I totally agree with all of that, but that's another whole show.
That's another show. We got 2 shows out of the 2 more shows we have to do. Get ready. By the way, Dr. McIver, aka your son, says he has some questions for you too. So get ready.
Well, they told us in biblical times that the women were not supposed to speak in public. They needed to go home and address whatever they needed to say to their husbands. So if my son could hold his question until I see him or talk to him. Now go on.
Okay, next question.
He can ask his question.
Okay, all right, Matt, you can ask your question. So we were talking about leading the charge, and I know that you are really big on developing new leaders. And so we've seen some emerging leaders, or young people who want to be leaders or have expressed a want to be leaders, surface as a result of the George Floyd incident. So Tangela says, where do we go? How do we begin that process? And who really needs to lead the charge? I know we said it should be everyone coming to the table, but I believe that there definitely has to be someone who is the guide and the North Star, so to say, because everybody can't leave, and everybody's not going to leave with the right intention. So how do we do that?
All right. First of all, I hear what you're saying, April, but my question is, do we actually need one leader? Now, let me clarify that. We have so many issues that we need to deal with right now. When I was marching and protesting in the 60s, we had some similar issues, but they were not overt like they are today. And they were probably to a minimum things that we could, see and deal with, and probably felt that we had the power to deal with through that struggle. We knew we wanted to desegregate businesses because we weren't allowed to come in the front door, but we could spend our money, the same money in the back door that we would have been spending in the front, but we weren't allowed to go to the front. So that was one part of it. The other part of it, if they employed, at the point in time, they weren't employing any of us in these businesses downtown, the Woolworth, the Crest, the 5 and 10 store. You couldn't see a person of color in those stores. So that was another issue that we had to confront. And so we dealt with them. When they first started hiring, they hired folks that were so light, you couldn't even tell that they were Black. So that was another issue we had to deal with. So then as we continued the protests and the marches and the negotiating, then we saw people that looked like me. Okay, so those were issues. The voting rights was another issue. We had to move out, get people to register to vote, and to see the need of. We were threatened and heckled and all of that because we had young people going out to do that kind of thing as well, but very organized, I would say. And then the hiring practice on the businesses, and then the schools that we were in. We knew we were in a Black school because the desk that we were sitting in was marked up, had everybody's name on it. And sometimes when you're writing and you've got one sheet of paper on that desk, you might rip your paper because your pencil was going through one of those, scratch. Yeah. So you had that issue. The books were all like torn and tattered, and they were hand-me-downs. They were the leftovers from, the other schools. So those were the issues we dealt with, not necessarily the police brutality, okay? Because our communities were very, very different back then. So here's what I'm going to say. I think there is so much going on today that I don't see just one leader surfacing to deal with the masses. Now, the teacher in me is going to give you, April, and you, Edward, a little quiz.
Wow.
Not a quiz, but a little tab. I need you all to help me identify all of the issues that we are facing in communities all over this country. I'm going to name one because this is one you all know, police brutality, the policy changes that might need to occur, or the transformation there in Brother Washington. All right, that's one big issue. Tell me another.
Economic disparities.
Economic disparities. What else?
Poor health care.
Poor health care.
Come on, Brother Elwood. Nah, I've named 2 or 3.
You passing your test, Sister April. You got an A right now.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna give Brother Elwood a chance.
More Black history in our schools, okay?
Okay, yeah, education issues. Yeah. Okay. What else? You got racism. You got
I'm trying not to name that. Yeah, that's why I feel like it's an umbrella there.
Right.
Yeah.
Voters' right, voter suppression. You got drugs and crime in our communities. Then top with, with all of this going on, has COVID. Now, I would say that all of the socioeconomic issues can include any one of those things that you all mentioned. So I guess what I'm saying, when you look at all of the issues that we have to deal with in communities everywhere, why do we need just one leader? You got people, and I'm going to tell you the answer to this question. I'm going to say our young people really need to be in charge. But because they may need some assistance, I think the seasoned people who are in these communities can help to lend some support to what they're doing. If training needs to occur with these younger people, then it needs to be trained. They don't need to get out there without a plan, without being able to organize, without being able to organize and pull together whatever it is that they're trying to effect the changes in. So if I am skilled and well versed in the field of education, then I expect to be on that committee or with that coalition of people. You need to select the best of who you have in all of those areas so that you can effect the kind of change, because these people got a body of knowledge, first of all.
That's right.
And they've done research too, and they could do more research as the need requires. So I can envision, and I could be wrong now, but this is just me. I can envision taking these areas that we just discussed and looking to see who are those persons in those areas that are well adept in the field, that can articulate the concerns that we have community in these areas. Then I think that's the route we need to go, where we need to go. Now, that's just me, because there's too much going on that one person can effect the kind of changes that we need, and to do it effectively and efficiently. That's just me.
I agree. I agree 100%. I'm gonna go to the comments. Ricky Gilliard, thank you so much for tuning in. He says, where are we going? What is the common goal? We're going to get to that next. That's really, one of the questions that's on our outline for tonight. He says, I believe that before we start looking for leaders, we need a clearly stated destination. And I think you just outlined that, Ms. McIver. Some of the issues that were posted on the thread: education, voter suppression, systemic racism within government employment, gentrification, redlining, disproportionate incarceration, school to prison pipeline, criminal justice reform, supporting our HBCUs more. Y'all, that's not even an exhaustive. I mean, that's
overwhelming.
That's the tip of the iceberg. Yes, and it's the tip of the iceberg.
Overwhelming.
It's also stressful.
And let me say this too, while I've said what I said. When we prioritize, if we did it the other way, we may not have to prioritize anything, because we'll have a coalition of people working on each one of these areas. And then when you bring it back to the table and share your findings, share, what has been the outcome of those brainstorming and meetings and negotiating and that kind of thing. We could do it all, but we can't have one leader doing all of that. I think it's overwhelming. It's too much. So that's my take on that.
I think that's a good take. I also think that we have to remember that we can't do it alone. Yes, these are things that affect our community, but there are people who want to fight the fight along with, our community. So
we can bring it to the forefront.
We can bring it to the forefront. We have to cross borders and lines. Yeah. And like you said, identify who's in it and who can move the needle and help make it happen. So how do we set goals to make societal changes? How do we stay focused on results? I think you've kind of answered this question as well by outlining how we structure our leadership, how we stack our issues, and then identify how to tackle those things. But also staying focused on the results means just that, results. It doesn't mean stopping with just a march or just an event or, creating the awareness. Creating the awareness is one piece. But then you have to take that momentum and make changes, or push for change. So how do we stay focused on that as a result? The change.
Well, I think we need to look at, again, identify those issues that we know, first of all, that's impacting our community in a negative way. And when we plan whatever it is that we're going to do, we organize the efforts that will be needed to do that. And then we identify those resources that can best help us to do that. All of that's written up in a plan. How are we going to make this happen? And who are those key individuals, or key people that we can pull together that can help us to make that happen? And whatever Sister Joella told us very plainly, you have to keep the course. You have to stay on the course. Mm-hmm. And we older folks, we need to learn how to pass the baton. Because these younger people have ideas, and they have that impetus and that drive to want to do something. Where it needs to be channeled, then the community needs to help to channel that. Once we've identified those problem areas or the area of change, then again, this coalition or committees, if you will. One of the things I thought about, and Sugar Hill, you better not get me for this. We know who the leaders are on Sugar Hill.
You're looking at them right there.
We know who the leaders are. We can call the names of something. If we want something to be communicated to Sugar Hill, we know exactly who to go to. I would strongly suggest that we look at all of our neighborhoods that way.
Absolutely.
Because we've got so many different neighborhoods in this very Conway, Horry County community. Look at those neighborhoods. Who is it in those neighborhoods that can surface as a viable person, a viable way to get all of this information out? We know, Edward and I have talked about the communication piece. How do we inform everybody, especially those that don't have access to technology? Right. How do we get the word out to them? How do we get the message out to them? Things are going on that we want them to be aware of. How do we do that? And somebody said something about this. This seems like the aldermen or the wards or whatever. I really don't care. I don't care what you call it. But we know we can identify somebody in every neighborhood in Horry County. And this goes back to really the question that Waits was talking about. Yep. I thought about that so heavily. He wants to really bring his people on board to develop trust. Right. Absolutely. In them. Yes. Yes. And if he could just even look at that concept to see that if it would work, I think we could get more knowledge out of all of the stuff that we are doing. So with that in mind, I'd like to see the coalitions. We had a young group of protesters, and they're still there, and they're still planning things. But when we heard about it, we decided, well, let's see if we can help them, because I knew what it was like when I was in the protest. We were very organized, and we had things in place. We didn't have to go out to look for anything because it was there. So we tried this Zoom session with the young people and shared with them our feelings, April and I. And we shared with them how we thought some things they need to look into before they actually went out there. And again, I want to thank the law enforcement, because how they managed to do this with such short notice, trying to provide a safety net for 2 marches that occurred on the same day. Yeah. I just have to commend them and for the willingness to get out. I don't know if the young people looked at it from that standpoint that this is a safety measure. And I would always want to have that available to me when I'm out there, marching or protesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, we talked to them, helped them get the resources that they needed to make sure what they were doing, was going to be successful. And, I think that's where I fit in. And if these young people would just get a megaphone and go through these neighborhoods and say, calling all retirees, we need your help to do this, or we need your help to, if they ask, and we all can get together and be a part, and it might be, they can call it intergenerational. I don't know what part y'all gonna put me in, but I think it needs to be across the board, every age level, every anybody that wants to be a part of. And I see my friend Gary on this, because Gary is involved in one of those movements that I just cannot wait to help support whatever it is that he's doing. So I right now I can defer my time to somebody younger.
You're not going anywhere, Miss Mac.
Not you, Edward. Would you just, so anyway, before he gets to saying anything, I think due to COVID, we are trying to figure out how we're going to meet. What are we going to do? How are we going to get together? And there are so many different creative ways that we can come up with to meet. This a forum here, the Zoom forum, the teleconference. I mean, there's so many different ways. But when I see a young brother who is so sharp and astute and articulate, I want to defer some of my time to him.
I heard that. Well, before we do, first of all, Gary, thank you for joining us. He was waiting in the wings, but I wanted to make sure he was safe before I brought him in. Right. Thank you for being with us tonight. But Ms. McIver, Dr. Mack says, are you ready for his question? She says, yes, she's ready for your question. So
tell him if the answer is I love him. I do love him.
Okay. Well, you can. Maybe that is the question. So many great comments coming in. Just want to acknowledge some of the people who are watching. Tangela Belenza, she says, Mrs. Mack for president. Can you do that in 2020? Can you do that in 2020?
Hi, Tangela, love you.
Yes. And then, of course, Verdell Beckman, she says to make a point or to add to a point, she said, just had a Morehouse graduate. What do you suggest for him to do to help others behind him? And I think you've pretty much, you answered that, what he needs to do to reach back and bring someone up into that. Ricky Gilliard, results. Everybody's just on board with this conversation. I think it's great. And Dr. Mack's question is, how did you have such a wonderful son? So y'all can handle that later. But anyway, Gary, yes. Gary, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that you were able to catch a good part of the conversation. I saw you chime in a little bit earlier, but I know that Ms. McIver and I, when we talked about the outline for this program, we were trying to figure out who we needed to bring in, and she immediately mentioned your name. We know that you're a behind the scenes person and, you're making some things happen. What can you add to this conversation and tell us about some of the things that you believe need to happen at this point? Can you hear us, Gary?
April, if you're talking, I can't hear you. I can hear Ms. McIver, but I can't hear anybody else but Ms. McIver.
That's interesting. I don't have any issues with my audio, but we can hear you.
You can hear me?
I'm
kind of reading your lips, but I can't hear you. I can hear Ms. McIver.
What is the question that you want me to ask him, April?
What is he doing, and give his insight on the conversation, and what is he doing? Let us know what he's got going on, and what his thoughts are on this conversation.
Okay, Gary, April is asking that you give your thoughts on what you just heard in this conversation and give us some insights into what things that you are doing.
First, I want to thank you all for having me on here, and I have really enjoyed the show. Ms. McIver, I tell you that I was supposed to be on another conference call and paying more attention to you all than I was my own conference call. I really, really, really enjoyed the conversation. I echo everything that Ms. MacIver has said, and all of you all have said. I really enjoyed the Black History moment. Everything was remarkable. I've had the privilege of being under people like Ms. MacIver and mother, my father, people who were students, people who were educators, who liked talking and teaching. I appreciate their generation because, to me, the pride that they take in being just in existence and making a contribution just always exudes them. Like, I don't know, they just go to the grocery store different. You know, it just looks like it looks like everything they do is just done with such class and elegance
and grace.
Absolutely. Yes, I can hear you. Okay.
You hear me now? Okay.
And grace. And everything is just so wonderful. So I was taught at an early age, as you know, that to make as much impact as I could. My father taught me that my job is to take my family further than he took his, because I'm starting with the Head Start. I think that Ms. MacIver is right. I don't think one leader is going to be the solution. I kind of take exception, especially from people who want to look from the Black Moses figure. We tend to be the only nationality in which they look for Moses. Every other race segment, no one points out a Moses. Everyone's expected to lead where they are. And I think that that's what I pull from. The other thing is what we're doing. Part of it I can't say right now, but I will talk as much as I can. But I know one of the things that we're doing, from talking to a lot of the young organizers, there's a hunger and emotion and zeal to want to do something, but they're coming to the table because George Floyd has brought out a hunger and a thirst. They didn't always have this hunger, always have this thirst, but it exists now. And they're having to play catch up and call it down all the young, brilliant minds. Kudos to them for having the willingness to want to play catch up. And what I mean by playing catch up is a lot of them, for the first time, are going back and reading the bills, looking at the laws on the table, seeing what's in place, see who's been fighting and what they've been fighting. And to their credit, every single one of them that I've talked to has been very receptive to hear what was going on, very open to wanting instruction. And so as a result of that, one of the things we're working on is providing some community-type courses where people can come in, via Zoom, anything else, and be instructed on the issues. And not even to take a side, not tell them how to think, not to tell them what side to be on, but just this is what the law is, this is what it means, this is the necessary impact, and maybe open up a dialogue to be able to answer those questions. One of a brilliant man, I won't call his name, but brilliant man, young man, he was frustrated and called me the day of the primary election because he was frustrated because when he knew he was time to go vote, everybody said go vote. When he went to the voting booth, he realized that it was primary election. And so when he labeled himself as Democrat, he was frustrated. He thought that they were doing him wrong because there were only 2 names on the ballot. He didn't know, he didn't want to look ignorant, so nobody explained it to him. He was angry. The people that he had talked to was mentioning Republican names, but of course when he labeled himself as Democrat, he was not able to see those names. So he thought it was a different ballot and called me angry. And so after a 5-minute phone call, he was able to understand what was going on. And the frustration, that's just somebody who actually called me to find out the information. There's a lot of people who would have turned away, went home, said, I'm done with it, everything's rigged, or caused a scene only to be embarrassed. And I think that we have to now be able to provide the necessary tools that it takes for our people to really not play the game, but to make the difference they really want to make. In February, we took a lot of young people to Washington, D.C. on what we call the African American History and Culture Tour. And we went to nothing but the African American Civil Rights Museum, the Smithsonian. We took them to all the monuments and let them see. Only because, and it happened, I got to shout out my own daughter. All right, but I got to shout my daughter out. And Kendall wrote this. She drew this picture, and the picture was the silhouette of a black woman with an arrow and big hoop earrings. All right, and right across the shoulders, she writes the caption, "Embracing my race." And when I looked at it, I said, "Oh, this is wonderful." And I honestly thought that maybe she had copied the caption. I said, "Where'd you get the caption from?" She said, "I came up with it." I said, "You made this up?" She said, "Yeah." And so it started another conversation because God has blessed me, and blessed my father and blessed our parents. And my children have never seen a lot of the more difficulties and difficult sides of life when it comes to that type of thing. But even with all of the privileges that she experiences, my daughter still is trying to figure out, like everybody else, how to embrace their race. And that was an eye-opener for me, that here it is, I'm working hard to try to give them as much of the finer things of life as I can, and I really hadn't even dealt with the bare necessity of, hey, here's how you can make sure that you're good being you. You're good with the skin, you're good with your lips, you're good with your hips, you're good with your hair, everything else that, and that was powerful to me. And so that spent off a whole different concept of, Gary, number one, you have a responsibility as being a leader in the community, as being a young man in the community, as being a father in the community, to do all you can to give all the tools you can for them to be able to embrace their race. And I am very teachable. I got people like Mr. MacGyver who will say in front of all of you, "I said what I said." I put it in quotations. I love it. I said what I said. Everybody else was getting excited about reclaiming my time. I just said, we got Mr. MacGyver. That's old news to us. We are.
Okay.
So there's more to come, and I will tell you that there have been conversations. I do have the privilege to talk to some of the city officials and our city council. They've been very receptive and very open. Chief has been very receptive, very open. Not only this chief, but even the last chief has had conversations with us. And I always lean on the experience and wisdom of people like Mr. MacGyver. I call that Oakley. All those, my father, all of them have given me their input and also given me their instruction. I appreciate it, and I promise as we go further, I'll keep building as much as we can possible. There are young people out there fighting.
Well, that's the best news I've heard all day. You just don't hear it too often. You know what I mean? But good to have you on, Elder Lee.
Pleasure to be on.
Yeah.
But look, I just want to say that Elder Lee was in the forefront of making sure that our summer job program really got off to a good start. Okay, and I really appreciate that. I don't get this opportunity to do it often to say it to your face like that. But the children appreciate you, man. They really do. And of course,
I appreciate you, and I didn't get a chance to tell you about this, but let me tell you in 3 minutes my spill on that. What we don't realize is that we don't have everything that everyone else has. For instance, there are families who have property and businesses in the community, and when they grow up, they just go work at Uncle Tony's job or Uncle Billy's grocery store. When our community doesn't have that, we don't have a lot of that. But what we do have is what you all have provided. And what I mean by that is whenever they graduate college, one of the easiest ways for them to get out of jobs is on the entry level, they're requiring 2 years experience. Now look at the wording there. Entry level jobs are requiring 2 and 3 years of experience. How could you get that unless while you were in college, somebody there letting you work in that field? Well, we don't have the stores, we don't have the businesses like that to be able to, while they're in college, to work there. But here's what we have that we need to take advantage of. People like you putting people in place, because what we have more than anything else, the black church needs to put these people to place. So if you're a marketing major, while you're in college, you could be doing flyers and programs for any of these black churches. They can put you on the books. as their marketing director. I'm talking about 5 members, and when you graduate, it's perfectly legal
You're
and
right.
acceptable for you to say you have 2 and 3 years of experience, like
Absolutely.
That's
everybody else.
absolutely right. That's absolutely
Well,
right.
Gary, that needs to be added to your list of
Keep
looking at
talking, Gary. Keep talking.
looking at those businesses and resource person. You can lend some real good support to what Edward is doing with that summer job program, and even
Yes, ma'am.
extending it through a school year if and when we have one. One of the things that I heard you say, and you all are doing some things, and when you say at some point in time you'll be able to share it, I say that point in time was yesterday. So you think about that one too,
Yes, ma'am.
because we
Yes,
all need
ma'am.
to be informed, and that
Yes,
way
ma'am.
we won't be trying to reinvent the wheel. Because there are
Yes,
some
ma'am.
people that are going to jump out there and do exactly what you're doing, and then they're going to wonder, well, I didn't know somebody was already doing that. So,
Absolutely.
and the other thing, I love the research aspect that we need to, before we get into anything that we are involved in, there needs to be some research, some background information provided. And when we are doing things, we need to make sure that all segment of the community has access to the information. And I agree with you saying the young man, because somebody texted me and said, don't forget to vote Tuesday. Don't forget to vote Tuesday. And I'm sitting on there thinking, and then I heard it again. Why am I going to be voting Tuesday? Well, I wouldn't be voting Tuesday. I've already voted in the primary. So then I called around, because I don't have that information. I called around and I asked the powers to be, the elected officials, tell me who is voting in this primary. Because the information that we've got out there, we are sending everybody to the polls, the vote, and we can't vote unless we did not vote in, and unless we want to vote, another way. So we've got to make sure that when we disseminate information, it's got to be as accurate as we know it to be.
Yes,
or
ma'am.
to be futile.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think it kind of goes back to what you were talking about, Ms. McIver, as far as the pinpoint persons in the communities who will kind of be, as Chief Waite said, the gatekeepers,
Right.
and who will help to communicate certain information throughout our communities, and kind of like what we talked about, a little coalition or whatever. And that's really one of the ways that we can definitely
and we don't
strengthen
need to choose
unify
those people.
No, we don't have to.
They'll identify their
themselves
leaders in their community.
It would be nice if we had a protocol such that I don't know if it requires an official referendum with the voting elections or not, but where we can develop sections of our city and have them be voted in as, for example, advisory neighborhood commissioners or something like that. You know what I mean? That's a leadership in a certain.
That's another thought, Gary.
Conway, you know what I mean? That's a leadership.
Right.
I took that word from.
Well, let's just put a challenge out there.
I took that word from a couple of more cities.
Just put
they have advisory neighborhood commissions, and then they're voted in at each election. Okay, that gives a little prestige there to that title. When I think there was some monetary compensation in terms of expenses being paid, but no, it wasn't a whole lot. Okay, but the fact that they're commissioners, advisory neighborhood commissioners, those people have somebody to go to. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking closely at the monetary thing. It shouldn't have to be, and not that they're expecting it, but I think if they can organize themselves within their community, they can come up with their leader. Maybe at some point in time, maybe some election, but right now we just want somebody identified. And again, Sugar Hill, we know who you are. I'm not talking about you, April.
I know you're not talking about me. You and I have had this conversation.
Oh, okay.
Trust me, I know who the mayor of Sugar Hill
who
is.
you all are in Sugar
I know
Hill.
who the mayor of Sugar Hill is.
Who the go-to persons are. So if you're listening,
That's capital.
Yeah.
Just wait for Gary to call on you now.
Exactly.
But one thing I want us to know is that the challenge needs to be out there to all of us to do whatever we can to help in any of these situations when we're called upon.
Right.
You know, we are in this thing together, because what affects one of us affects all of us, either directly or indirectly.
Yeah.
You know? So we have a stake, and we shouldn't have to sit down and say, I don't know why so-and-so is doing this. They're doing it because you are not doing it. So when we get these folks out there doing the good of the order and the good for the community, we need to support them. Now, when they come up with something strange and we take issue, we need to deal with them with that. So I'm just concerned that we engage our young people, especially this summer. And I don't know what all we could do in this COVID situation, but we've got to get these minds together to develop some programs for these young people. I've already started exploring some things in the math area for the K through 5. And then April, you had a young lady and a young man, Denise and I can't think of the young man's name that was on your last show that talked about beyond.
And Denzon, yes, and Denise Chapman out of Georgetown.
Beyond Georgetown. I see
I love that concept
being used anywhere in any community.
I love it.
So even if we can work on something where, you know, they're presenting to this community as well. And the meeting is on the conference they have is on July 17th and 18th.
18th, yes.
Virtual conference.
And anyone can sign up. It's free. Anyone can sign up. Basically a virtual study or tour of the world.
Exactly.
Trying to expose people to what's outside of our boundaries, basically.
And I know I'm signing up.
I'm signing up too. I really am. And they really need support for that. I just want to go over
the message out.
I can post it in the network and in the two groups, and then I'll make sure to send it to Brother Edward. We'll put it on Whittemore Community Magazine's Facebook page, and I'll put it on my page. Anyone can share from my page. Okay.
And we can get permission for some of these church pages if possible, the websites. If we can get that, then we should be able to put it on there.
You know what we have going on here? We're strategizing.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're strategizing.
That's right. That's exactly what we're doing.
That's what this is all about. I mean, and I think that this is how you get things done. It's everybody can come to the table with ideas, but when we organize it and come up with a strategy, then we can, see it come to fruition. And I think that's the most important aspect of anything that we attempt to do. So many wonderful comments. Again, Ricky Gilliard is all in this conversation tonight. He's like, we need a team that not only assists with registration, educates our community in the process of voting. That's definite. Amanda, it's a collaborative work. We must work together. I think that's the consensus here. Tanya Harriet said, tell me where I need to be and when.
I like that.
Yes. Shakira Brockington, I'm giving my people music to encourage them and take pride in their race. So there's a lot of educational components, and that's everybody needs that. Right. So, this is great. Thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. Reggie Dyson says November is fast approaching, and you're right, Reggie. And so there's a lot that needs to be done to prepare for the election in November. And I think that we had to start yesterday as far as making sure that people understand the importance of being registered to vote and showing up at the polls. One thing to register to vote, it's another thing to show up and make sure you cast your ballot. So that could definitely be one of those priority items. Ms. McIver, yeah. Gary, you can put that on your list.
Yeah. I'll tell you one person who's leading that voter registration. That's Mary Jen Owens. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
all she wants to do. She doesn't want to work with anything else, Gary, except voter registration. So make
Oh,
sure
that's
you got
enough.
I
her.
love Miss
That's good,
Owens.
right,
Okay.
Brother Edward? Yeah.
That's enough. I mean,
Identify
I love
people's
Miss Owens.
strengths. Identify people's strengths and put them there.
exactly, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm sure
All right.
she's doing a good job. I'm sure she's doing a
And I,
good job at it.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. Let me
Uh,
ask you, April and Edward, that flyer that you all have, is this an appropriate time that we can pull that up?
Absolutely. I can do that.
can I just say one thing about the summer job program? You know, I'm here, where we're here trying to figure out how to implement one in view of the COVID virus, and how we could do what we could do, like teleconferencing like we're doing now, and like the schools are doing with their students, the teachers doing with their students. If anybody can come up, can provide some input as to how we could implement something like that and still pay the students, as this they were a summer job, please, just submit me something, and we can definitely have some discussions on that, and we might be able to move forward and have a summer jobs program done remotely. You never know.
Edward, would this be a good time too to provide some training? You can
Yeah,
pay the kids and
absolutely,
do some training of all
absolutely,
types, you know.
absolutely. Of course, we got to get some funds coming in.
Well, you'll get the funds. All you have to do is open your mouth and ask.
absolutely.
Brother Edward and I talked maybe months ago. I have a concept for the virtual sessions that he was just talking about, that also would help with training when it comes down to hard skills and soft skills and how to apply those skills in the workplace, and just job preparation, understanding that what they're doing now actually is the start of building up their resumes. That's what I do for a living as Director of Career Services at Ori Georgetown Tech. So there's a lot of things that we can do in a virtual conference, as a matter of fact, or even as a part of a work concept over the summer, and get the kids signed up. So, Brother Ed, we need to get on that like ASAP.
Okay, and when I said we a few minutes ago, that's I meant
It encompasses everybody, whoever wants to help.
When
Whoever wants to help.
when I say we have been doing something, April really came up with the concept, because I guess she used to do it all the time in a way. But we can explore those skills. Okay, go ahead.
Oh yeah, but I know that there's some willing parties who would want to help, because I can imagine a platform like this, and we have guest speakers and people who have expertise in certain areas to be a part of this, and the kids are learning, and maybe they're even earning some type of badges or certificates at the end of the summer. I mean, I've got it all up here.
Right.
But
even the Zoom sessions.
Even the Zoom sessions or whatever. Yeah. I mean, there's just so much that we can do. And if anyone wants to help, the best way to let us know is to reach out to any of us, of course, tonight on the panel. And you can reach out to me on any of my pages here on Facebook. Some of you have my email address. You have my phone number. Text me, or reach out to us through the Whittemore Community Magazine's website, which is wcmagazine.net. And let us know if you are willing to help with some of the summer session ideas that we have as well. So I know that Ms. McIver wanted me to post something, and I will put this up right now. I just want to show you something that her committee's been working on.
There it is.
Mac, okay. Ms. Mac, you want to talk about this?
Yeah. Okay, we just have an opportunity now to show appreciation and to celebrate two young ladies who have recently been assigned principals of Conway area schools for the lack of something else, because we're going to do a car drive by parade, because we think that we're going to have so many folks that want to show appreciation to them for what they've done, and to celebrate the successes, one of which is being appointed to these area schools. Miss Demetrius Williams will be the principal at Early College High School. and Ms. Tanika McKissick will be the principal at Conway High School. We're asking for the entire community is invited to join us on Friday, July 17th at 9:30 a.m. And we will be parking at the Walmart on Church Street. And then from there, we'll go to Conway High School and meet and greet Tanika and her family. And then we'll go to Whittemore Park Middle School, where we will meet and greet Demetrius and her family and probably some faces. So we are asking you all to come out, bring your cars, decorate your cars, bring out with some gifts that you can bear for the honorees. And we certainly hope that this small gesture coming from members of the community would be one that, you know, well, we can continue to celebrate successes in just all walks of life. But today, with this effort, it's these two persons' chance to be celebrated. And we want you all to come out and show some support for that.
Well, all right. I think that's wonderful, and it's exciting. It's an exciting time. It really is.
That's a great time, man. It's a great time.
It is a great time. I actually found the flyer for the virtual conference, Beyond Georgetown. Okay. So July 17th and 18th, panels featuring world scholars, music demonstrations. You can register at opsinc.org. Clarice Polk, who's the American diplomat serving in Jamaica, is going to be one of the featured speakers. And basically, this is going to be a way to connect our world, the foreign world, to anyone who is interested in learning more about the world. And the flyer, of course, says ages 14 and up. Denise mentioned the other day that anyone can sign up for this, and it is free. It's a 2-day conference. I believe it begins at 10 a.m. on the 17th. But, you know, once you sign up, you'll be able to get all of that information. So if you can, please support. I know that these kinds of things can, you know, it takes a lot of work to pull these conferences together and to get people committed to being speakers. And this is a wonderful opportunity for our young people to understand more about our world. And that's one thing that we really want, is for our young people to know that there's more beyond Horry and Georgetown County. So what a better way to do it. We have an opportunity, prime opportunity now that everyone is connected virtually in such a big way. So make sure you support Denise. I will post that to the network as well, in the other group, and Whittemore Community Magazine, and also my page. And please feel free to share it.
And my email.
Yes, ma'am. I will email it to you. Gary, is that on your list too? I will email it to you.
Okay, I'm also
Gary and I know how to fall in line. We know how to fall in line with Ms. McCollum.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm also reminded about wearing our mask on the day of the celebration for the two principals. And there won't be much interaction because we will be in cars. But anybody who's at those tables where the gifts and the cards will be dropped off, they're asked to wear a mask and to social distance. Okay.
There you have it.
There you have it.
Okay.
So I'm going to go over some comments one last time, Brother Edward, and then we're going to break. This has been an awesome program tonight.
Really?
Reggie Dyson was, of course, mentioned the election again. He says the election is going to have tons of turns, and I believe we, you know, the writing is on the wall that there's going to be a lot of twists and turns with it.
Reggie Dyson?
Do you not know who Reggie Dyson is?
I know he's
Reggie,
looking.
see, of course he's looking. Yes, he is. But one thing Reggie made note of is that African Americans in Horry County are not voting, and it could be just the miseducation or, you know, lack of resources to get to polls or whatever it is. But now is the time for us to come together to make sure that we turn that particular dynamic around. So he says that South Carolina's biggest race will be Senator Lindsey Graham and Jamie Harrison. We definitely understand that. And so we're going to be on it. as far as that's concerned. So yeah, Miss McIver, I guess we need to get Miss Jen. She's probably already into action, but remind her that we're supporting it. So anyway, Brother Edward, do you have any closing comments? We are pushing the 9 o'clock hour. This has been a great conversation.
9 o'clock. We usually let the guests have the last remark. Ms. McIver?
Yeah, we'll let our two guests have the last remarks. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I would say youth before beauty, but I'll just go on. One of the things that I think that we need to do, we need to just make sure that we're reaching out to our communities and looking at the needs that are there, knowing fully well that we cannot deal or address all of them, but we can make referrals. We know people who know people who know people.
Absolutely.
So we need to put ourselves in a position to serve as resource people whenever there is some good that's going to come out of it, that's going to benefit the individual or the communities, the neighborhoods in which we serve. We need to go out always as servants, always, and trying to help meet the needs of the people that are in our communities.
Yes, sir. Elderly?
Well, I'm going to agree complete with Ms. McGovern. She said age before beauty, or beauty before age. But she got all that covered. So ladies first, beauty first, all that. I would never, never disrespect. Ms. McIver and my mother, I know she's probably watching right now, but I want to make sure that my mother and father know how much I appreciate them. And my mother and Miss McIver, they are two women who don't believe that age comes into play at all. I mean, I told my mother, I love her. She said, I don't know what's going on. I'm not getting up as fast as I used to. And she was dead serious. Wanted to call the doctor and get checked out. I said, Mom, you are blah, 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 blah years old.
Already?
So, already, but she was not at all considering her age. So I just want to appreciate you. Thank you all, Mr. McQueen. Thank you, April. I appreciate you for having us on here.
Absolutely.
If I could say anything else, I would be to tell the young people this and everybody out here, what we have not been taught to value that I want to make sure that we value is the power of your idea. Google a few years ago paid $10 million to the person who had the best idea. They didn't ask them to implement it. They didn't ask them to plan it. They just wanted the person who got the best idea. Because as a people, we have had to provide, survive, and other things, we really have not been able to tell our kids dream and value just the dream. Just tell me what you're dreaming. And I think that it's not coincidental that one of the most famous speeches that we remember is all about a dream. And so, young people, I really want you to recognize, please have those dreams. All the things that we're trying to figure out how to create, how to solve. Dream. Have those dreams. The electoral college is not a perfect. It is flawed, but the smartest people I know, including myself, has tried to sit down and try to find a better way. I can't come up with anything better than what we have right now. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Come up with something better. Let's figure out how to do it. But then let's use the system that's in place. And then the last thing that I'll say is this, as well as I want to shout Amanda Butler. Those are people who are working behind the scenes right now. And when I don't get any credit, they don't get any credit. So I at least want to call their names out. Thank you all so much for doing it. And remember, I promise you, it will be soon.
Okay. Thank you, Elderly.
The last thing is this. After the hashtag, if you're going to be involved in organizing and be on the level with Ms. McIver and April and Brother McQueen, you have to be in this beyond the hashtag.
There you
after
go.
The hashtag is gone, after no one is patting you on the back, after the emotional part of it has fizzled, you have to still go on it. And I'll invite you to do this. Everybody remembers Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. But tonight, as homework, go and Google or go and look on YouTube, Other America by Dr. King. When he gives this speech, this is his speech after I Have a Dream. And in his speech, he references this. He says that he was heartbroken. You can tell he's heartbroken because he said, after that huge crowd that we had in D.C., I thought that I had a machine that was going to move. And so when he gets to Chicago and finds economic crisis that those people were in, he picked up the phone to call those same people that were on the stage. And to his dismay, no one would return his phone call.
Wow.
And that's what I'm telling you. If you're going to be on that level, you have to be able to have the crowd with you, like these marches, but be in it when you're by it.
That's right. Don't just talk about it. Be about it. That's right.
Brother Edward, Gary just gave you something else to put on your list, Brother Edward. Having the young people this summer to come up with some ideas and how they can make those ideas come to fruition. I wrote your name beside that, Brother Edward. So with your summer job program, you can add that and we'll pay the kids to do it.
There you go.
Absolutely. All right.
Just nod your head in agreement, Brother Edward.
That's right. Yeah.
That's all there is to do.
Just yes.
That's all. I mean, look, I'm dead serious on that. And that's the way to kick things off.
Gary, we know the deal. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. This has been awesome. Thank you guys so much. We really do appreciate it. Yes. And just a reminder, this will be available for rebroadcast. You can catch it on our WCM Live Talk Radio YouTube page or YouTube channel. You can also see it again on Facebook, and you can go to wcmagazine.net and watch the replay. We do appreciate all of your support. Brother Edward has been doing WC Magazine since 97. Am I correct?
99.
99. Probably gave you 2 years. Propagating information.
Impressed.
He's very impressed.
That's April's word.
That's the word that you use that I love to hear. And it's an honor to be a part of this and an honor to be in such great company tonight. We certainly do appreciate you guys taking the time to be here. If you have any comments or questions or want to be a part of any of the initiatives that we talked about tonight, just, post something in the thread on Facebook. Send us the information. If you want to be in touch with Gary, we'll make sure he gets the info. Ms. McIver will get the info to her as well. But we appreciate all of you taking the time to spend 2 hours of your Monday night with us. And this is awesome.
That's awesome. Okay.
Awesome indeed. Okay.
Thank you again. You're sitting in your car.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Safely.
You're sitting in your car, man.
Now that's dedication. That's dedication.
Dedication.
So thank you all very much, and hope you have a great rest of the week.
You too, both of you. Gary too.
Thank all of you. God bless.
Love you all.
God bless.
All right. Love you.
Signing out.
Thank you for watching the Whittemore Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your host Edward McQueen and April Garner.